Race day 6 at the 420 and 470 Junior Europeans, with the 272 sailors arriving at Paheli Sailing Club this morning under a grey sky and light rain, with a breeze of around 14 knots with gusts up to 24. A critical day as the 470 teams complete their final 2 races to determine the 8-boat medal race lineup, whilst the 420 fleet completed races 9 and 10 of their 12-race series. The colder weather had many of the teams putting on heavier duty clothing to stay warm. Teams launched off the beach and then headed out to the racecourses in Cardigan Bay. With the breeze up on the racecourse, the conditions facing sailors were big waves, strong gusts, and the likelihood of a tough racing day ahead, favouring the heavier teams and those who could anticipate the sudden change in breeze. Race 9 on the 470 men course and the British pair of Wood and Brayshaw took a pin end of the line, with the South African pair of Asanathi and Sibu close by in what was a fairly even start for the teams. As the gusts hit 22 knots, challenging conditions for teams as they tried to tack after the start, with one crew even taking a swim. Within a minute, the British pair had edged into the lead, with the South Africans close behind and the series leaders from Italy, Capuro and Pupo, just a few metres further back. Wood and Brayshaw continued to extend and rounded the windward mark first, with a massive lead over the French teams of Pelisson and Boucher and Fedi and Agenor, who were chasing. The Italians and South Africans were amongst the top 6 teams, with the Israelis Cohen and Froili close behind. Onto the downwind leg and an impressive spectacle as the fleet surfed the waves, with those mastering their technique powering ahead with a breeze of around 22 knots. From the downwind, the fleet maintained a fairly steady order, with Woods and Brayshaw taking the win, Germany's Ordnerith and Hoesch in second, and Fredi and Agonov finishing third. Leaderboard changes followed, with Israel's Cohen and Froilich moving to pole position. A painful day for Capuro and Pupo, who broke their mast and headed back to shore. In the 470 women's fleets, Bahram and Maman from Israel secured their second successive race win. A great outcome for Switzerland's team of Fani and Siegenthaler, who finished in second place, marking their best race result of the series. Championship leaders Kiselova and Krasko from the Ukraine had been leading the race, but after recovering from a capsize ended up crossing the line in 10th. Over on the 420 racetrack, the lighter teams had a real struggle on their hands in the feisty conditions, having to work incredibly hard to keep their boats flat and powering forwards. Most of the pack chose to start at the committee boat end of the line, with the fleet splitting upwind. The championship leaders Paternoster and De Sale from Italy were buried well back. Heading upwind, the Kiwis led, with the American pair of Enkma van Dijk and McDonough in third. Another Antipodean team, the Australian pair of Winston Smith and Dawson, sailed an exceptionally fast reach and leapt up to second place at the second mark. Downwind, the gusts hit almost 20 knots, with the 420s literally flying over the waves in a thrilling spectacle. The Kiwis kept control of the fleet and took their first race win of the series, with the Americans finishing in second and the Australians in third. The leading girls' teams of Paternoster and De Sale, along with the French pair of Sola and Pébrière, kept control of their boats round the track, but were a long way off the leading group. The boys' top team of Lambrieux and Meyer from Holland, who were fourth going into the day, managed to leap up to second overall, despite their poor performance today. The Italians had their worst scoreline of the championship, but it was matched by other leading teams, retaining their lead with a 9-point margin.
It's a very difficult day because the wind is very strong for us. We do to race between 20 and 30 position. It is not good, but there were a lot of boys before us, so it is important.
On to Thursday's final day at the 420 and 470 Junior European Championships, with 2 races scheduled for the 96-boat 420 fleet and a double-point 8-boat medal race for each of the 470 men and 470 women fleets. Everything is still to play for, so stay tuned.